Here it is guys, I've got the 20 and the 24mm in my hands on each of my A7RIIIs. I've been using the 20mm for about almost 2 weeks now. I've taken it to a wedding, I've shot a bunch of sample images around my house so you guys can just kind of download those raw files. As always, I'll have the raw files from a couple of the wedding images and all of these test images that I've just taken around here, which were all locked off on a tripod, both on the A7R III, all at 100 ISO, so you can just go and compare them, download them for yourself and see the differences. I have to say, right out the gate, as soon as I downloaded the images, compared the side-by-side ones together in Lightroom, I noticed that the 20mm is way superior over the 24mm. I'm not sure how they can be so different, but basically the feeling I'm getting is the 24mm is a really fantastic lens. It's still gonna be my main lens for sure, but the 20mm makes it look bad. So basically the 20mm 1.8 is one of the most impressive wide angle prime lenses that I've seen. I think the only thing that came close and really ever impressed me with a wide angle prime was the Batiste 18mm, but I think this one's even better. So my opinion, straight off the bat, before we get into the whole review thing, I just want to make it really clear to you guys that my lens is the 24mm 1.4 and that's the one I'm going to be sticking with. My reasoning for that is I'm a wedding photographer and 20mm is just a little bit too wide for what I do. If you've been following along my channel for a while, you know that I use the 24mm for pretty much everything on a wedding day. Probably 85–90% of the images I shoot would be with the 24mm 1.4. The reason I use that is because it's just a little bit different than the 35mm. It also just allows me to get a little bit more dynamic photos and I just personally like the look of it. But each to their own, it is a little bit more difficult to use. 35 is definitely an easier focal length to work with in terms of weddings and portraits. But I really love the 24mm. The 24 is also really sharp in the center of the frame, which is generally where I'm composing most of the time. And when you stop it down below kind of f4, it gets pretty sharp all over the whole image. I think if I was a landscape photographer, I'd be definitely looking at the 20mm instead of the 24mm. But the 24mm is a little bit more universal, you know, you can use it for a lot more stuff. If 20mm is wide enough for you and you want a prime lens, I would 100% be going for this 20mm. It's just amazing. I'm not going to be buying it purely because I only use a wide angle for the dance floor, a few group photos and maybe some creative shots and stuff like that, and I have the Tamron 17–28mm. It's definitely not as good as a lens, but you know, it does me for what I need it for. And I'm going to keep my 24mm for my everyday kind of lens. In terms of chromatic aberration, the 20mm is much better controlled than the 24mm gmaster as well. So it really surprises me how good it is in terms of sharpness and chromatic aberration and makes me think why it's not just called a gmaster lens in the first place. So really fantastic job Sony on the chromatic aberration and sharpness. In terms of build quality, it's pretty much exactly the same as the 24mm gmaster, just being a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter. It still has the declick function, the AF/MF switch on the side and the function button, which is really helpful. I use the function button a lot for like AF focus hold when I'm doing video. It has the same 67mm filter thread, which is great if you already have the 24mm. It does have the wetter sealing gasket on the bottom of the lens, so in terms of landscape photography, heading out to the beach, maybe a little bit of rain, it's going to be fine for that kind of stuff also. In terms of the focus, it works fantastic for photo. I didn't see any issues at all. Being such a wide lens, you can still get a little bit of a shallow depth of field at 1.8, as you see in some of these photos, but it still focuses really fast, really close, and no issues there whatsoever. I also used it for video and it was also fantastic, no issues with video at all, but I think we all expect that. So focus is an A+ with the 20mm 1.8. So I've really been trying to be fair with all these lens reviews and I've been trying to think of things I don't like with the 20mm and I just honestly can't think of anything. It's a fantastic lens and I think if you're into landscape photography, architecture, anything where you need a wider angle, the 20mm is going to be fantastic. Most of you guys asked in my community section and in comments on my previous video, is it something that's going to replace my 24mm? Like I said before, definitely not. The 20mm is quite a bit wider than 24 and you just have to be a little bit more careful when taking photos of people to not, you know, kind of tilt the camera down or have people up in the corner because their kind of hands can, there you go, get really distorted, which is not something you want. I did use the 20mm on the dance floor at the wedding as well and it was really fantastic. Just getting those slow shutter movements and had no issues at all with that. I just manually focused it, put it on f9 and manually focused about 1 meter to 2 meters in front of me and that just made sure everything was in focus. So I've really been trying to keep these videos short and informative and just getting straight to the point, giving you guys my thoughts on them. As always, the raw files are in the description. If you appreciate videos like this, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks to everybody for following along. long. I'm going to do an update video soon with all the madness around this coronavirus and how it's affected my business. Maybe some ideas if you're struggling that can help you in this situation. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video in a couple of days.